right, Rue, manifest yourself.
Boom, what's up?
Hey.
Hey.
Oh, hey, you notice anything new here?
Oh, what's up with that?
I am showing Rue the new ring I just got.
Off eBay, is it haunted?
I don't know yet. It is an ancient Viking ring.
Jesus Christ, Jesse.
From between the years 500 and 900 AD. It's bronze, and I'm very excited about it. And actually, these are pretty reasonably priced because there was a lot of bronze rings found in England and Europe. Because bronze was pretty common. Like, most people had access to bronze unless you were a super peasant. So,
super peasant.
A super peasant, which is probably close to what you and I are.
The worst Marvel comic book hero ever.
Hey, speaking of comic book heroes.
Whoa, what a segue. No, so I feel like we should introduce how weird this episode is, because step one, me and Jesse, when we were together, had recorded this episode, and through the magic of technology, it was lost. It is now the forbidden episode, which has led us to, I am recording in my in-laws' downstairs guest bathroom.
Oh, I'm recording in my room, but no one's here. There's a lot of animals. You'll probably hear all of them again.
Yeah,
That was the cat jumping off of something they shouldn't have been on. Yeah.
No, I'm sitting on a toilet right now, because this is the most enclosed nook quiet space, because there's 6 people in the house that I can find.
You do sound a little echoey.
Some of the greatest songs were written in bathrooms for the acoustics, so I'm just gonna lean into that. And I also am using $10 Target emergency purchase headphones with a microphone. But I will be back in Germany on the 1st.
We're making do.
Yeah, my life's been so crazy lately, so this is what I'm working with, y'all.
Well, we're just happy to have you and that you made time for us, honestly. Yeah. And yes, although we have technically recorded this episode beforehand, and it was lost, I changed my story entirely.
Well, I'm excited.
I found something way better than last time. So, but I believe you're up first this week.
I am, because you did the pirate party last episode.
I did, and I'm so excited for Pirate Party Part 2.
Oh, that's hard to say. That's a tongue twister right there.
Pirate Party Part 2 will be premiering next week.
Pirate Party Part 2. Wow, okay, yep. Pirate
Party Part 2.
Do you have any other updates other than your bronze ring for the people?
I got confirmation I'm picking up my severed head on Tuesday.
Awesome.
Yeah, so the Halloween prank is heavy in action, and it is going down.
Fabulous. Yeah, I think this is going to be our last episode before Halloween.
Is it?
Yeah, because it comes out on Tuesday.
Oh, well, I have a special Halloween episode that we need to put out too.
Yeah, you need to send me the audio. Anyways.
Yes.
Happy almost Halloween, guys.
Happy almost Halloween. So, Rue, do you have anything spooky?
I'm gonna be on an intercontinental flight on Halloween. That's as spooky as I get.
I meant for your story this week.
Oh, well, of course I did. I thought we were doing catching up update Halloween stuff. Yes, I do have something spooky. And much like I will be next week, we are going to travel to Europe.
Well, that's a segue. That's your traveling music.
Oh, thank you. Can I get a 10-hour MP3 of that for next week?
I mean, I can record it for you once and you can play it on repeat as many times as you want. Just put it on a loop.
Brilliant. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we are headed over to England, more specifically the Holborn district of Western London today.
Ooh, it sounds like a fancy district.
It's kind of fancy, yeah.
Okay.
And where in particular we're going is the Viaduct Tavern.
So we're getting some drinks.
We're getting our drinks on. Sidebar, because I feel like I owe you and the people an update.
Yes.
So you know how I have a fondness for Snoop Dogg-oriented beverages with my gin and juice and what have you?
Of course, but it's bougie gin and juice.
It is. But the fabulous wine brand 19 Crimes has a Snoop Dogg wine, which since being in America, I have drank probably about 7 bottles of.
Whoa. I didn't know they had a Snoop Dogg one. I love
So
19
cool.
Crimes. I have the app on my phone where you can see
Yeah.
them come alive and talk about what they went to jail for.
Yeah, no, Snoop's is pretty badass, and it's a really tasty bottle. So just
Ooh.
thought I'd update you on that because I almost popped a bottle of it tonight to do this episode, but then I was like, I don't really want to drink wine in a bathroom. Like that's not my vibe.
I mean, okay, so we once did an infomercial for a product that was specifically to hold a wine glass in a bathtub. So,
But Jesse, I'm sitting on the lid of a toilet right now. I'm not in the bathtub.
it's got a suction cup. You can put it different places.
Oh,
So
well, I
since you're in
appreciate
New York, I gotta ask you, have you seen Bigfoot yet? Because I know Darnell was pretty pumped about seeing Bigfoot in New York when he was a kid.
that. I've been on the lookout, and unfortunately we have not seen him yet.
Dang.
Yeah, I've been looking, maybe I'll catch a glimpse, but he's an elusive little fella.
Big fella.
Well, I call him a little fella in like a big sisterly kind of way.
It'd be kind of cool to be Bigfoot's big sister. We could write a kid's book about that. Ooh, new idea. Nobody steal that.
Guys,
All
don't
right.
take our idea.
Tell us
Okay.
about the tavern.
So, the Viaduct Tavern is built on the corner, which gives it kind of this unique wedge shape. And
A
this
wedge?
is going to be
Okay.
important later. So, the tavern was built in and opened its doors in 1869, the same
Okay.
year that the Holborn Viaduct, from which it gets its name, was erected.
So like a viaduct, that's kind of like a water system, right?
Yeah, like an aqueduct.
Okay,
Yeah.
like an aqueduct, exactly. So like the ancient Roman aqueducts.
Right, so it's moving water through the city, which in London in the 1800s is a huge innovation.
Okay.
And so that's why they're like, let's name this tavern after it, because it's a really big deal.
Romans did it first.
Romans did everything first.
Pretty much.
All right, so this tavern is actually the last remaining gin palace in all of London.
What is a gin palace? Are we talking like gins like the genies and like the demons from
No, but that would be so cool.
No? Okay.
No, so gin palaces were kind of started because in the 19th century, so the 1800s, gin was popular with Londoners because of legislation which made it cheaper than beer.
I'd be down for that. I would drink gin over beer anyway.
I love gin.
Gin's it's pretty solid.
Yeah. And so because of this, and also because it was like the cheapest drink you could get, thus started a huge wave of these gin palaces, which were designed to be ornate. They had gas lamps and gold details, these huge picture windows. A lot of them had like paintings and frescoes inside to try and kind of class up this really cheap, shitty drink.
I mean, that seems like they kind of did a 180 there.
Yeah.
So basically, they're like the natty light of the time, and they're marketing themselves as if they're, I don't know, what's the high expensive liquor brand?
Moet? I don't know. I don't drink expensive stuff.
I don't know either. That's why I'm asking you.
I drink.
So they're marketing themselves like they're
like it would be like the equivalent of like what we would think of like a champagne bar at this point, where it's like, ooh, so fancy, but really it's just like you said, natty light.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Come in for your finest White Claw, good sir. Anyway, so the Viaduct.
What a time to be alive.
What a time. I had my first White Claw since we've been in America.
You did?
Yeah, I love them.
I've never had one.
Dude, because they're just LaCroix waters with alcohol, which is like, I'm here for it.
I like my alcohol to be alcohol, though.
You like your alcohol to be in a thimble, and I don't think that gives you the right to an opinion.
Okay, look, I'm an extreme lightweight. Like, it does not take me much. And on top of that, I do an appearance on Talk of the Town podcast as Tequila Jessie, and I did a huge review of all these different tequila brands. So I actually managed to strip my stomach lining entirely by doing that. And so I was on this long streak for about, well, let's see, when was that? It's been, I want to say maybe not over a year, but it's been a long time, but I have not been able to drink like any alcohol. I had my first alcohol since that 2 weeks ago, and it did not go over well.
Oh no.
So I'm still not on the alcohol train, but usually I like a good rum. I like champagne. I like a white wine.
We've had some rum together.
Yeah, we've had a thimble of rum together.
A thimble of rum. Okay, so anyways, the Viaduct saw all different types of clientele. all the way up from government officials who worked in the district down to criminals recently released from the nearby debtor's prison or just regular prison.
Oh, that's quite the mix of people. So they've got like kind of like upper middle class. I don't want to say high class, maybe high class.
High class, yeah. Although, because I mean, it's like kind of like even politicians because of that district, yeah.
Okay, so mixing with very low class. That's very interesting.
Yeah. So across the street was the Newgate Jail, which was known for having its terrible conditions. And I do want to point out how hard it is to be a jail known for having horrible conditions in the 1800s.
Oh, so even back then it was known for...
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's not like 2020 where we're starting to be like, prisoners are still people, guys.
And man.
Yeah, it was rough.
Okay, so what made the conditions so bad? Because, I mean, that's quite a statement.
Yeah, I mean, it was mostly just like overpopulation, vermin, lack of access to hygiene.
Okay.
I mean, your typical things, but
typical
just on a really high degree. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so outside of the jail, they would have executions, public executions, like you do.
Back in those times.
Exactly. And remember earlier I mentioned all these gin palaces had these huge picturesque windows.
Yeah.
The viaduct was positioned so that from every single one of those windows, remember I talked about it being a wedge shape, perfectly triangular to the corner, from every window you could watch the public execution take place.
Oh, and I bet that was a form of public entertainment back then.
Oh, yeah, because you could go get a cheap gin and watch the dude take his last breath.
So, not to be morbid here, but it is a true crime podcast, and this is what we do. What kind of executions are we talking about? Are we talking about like beheadings or just gallows?
So I'm believing
not to undermine anything.
I'm believing that
there's a big difference than gallows and
a huge difference. I'm believing that since it was the 1800s, it would have been gallows, so execution by hanging. Yeah.
Still, not a dinner and a drink I would like to go see.
Yeah. So today there's a fountain across the street, and many people believe that that is actually the site of where the gallows were.
Really? Okay.
This fountain, yeah. And the fountain, and the reason that people believe that is because the fountain can be seen from every window. And they're like, oh, that must be it then.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
And like if you needed to put something cheery to kind of cover up a crappy past, a fountain's not a bad move.
Well, and it is a really pretty area. Like I've been there a couple times. When we've gone.
Oh, have you been? You've been to the Gin Palace?
I've been like 3 times. Oh,
okay. So you spoiled the best part.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That you've been there.
I have, but yeah, no, I have, and it's absolutely beautiful inside. And there's a huge fountain across the street, and I'm like, that makes sense. Actually, it checks out.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So things could get spicy at the viaduct. Upon entering, there was a toll booth where patrons would exchange their money for tokens, and they would then present those tokens to the bartender to get their drink. The reason that that the landlady or landlord, I think it was actually a woman who owned it for a while.
Well, you go, girl.
Right?
I mean, back then.
Yeah. So the reason that the owner, whoever they were, did this was to cut down on theft between these patrons who were all the way from, high society to people who were just out of prison, but also from the bartenders because they didn't trust their own staff.
Okay, look. I've worked as a bartender before. Well, not really a bartender. I filled in for bartenders a couple times, but I've been a server at places long ago. Yeah. And I'm just saying that protecting against your staff is not a bad thing. Like I did asset protection, and usually about 50% of your theft comes from staff. Yeah. In any sort of establishment. Yeah. So yeah, I keep saying she because I do think at least at one point in history it's been owned by a woman, but the owners did that just because there was a high concern about the content of the character of their staff, but also because fights would break out a lot in the viaduct. Okay. And interestingly enough, the toll booth is still in existence today. It doesn't function anymore. I mean, you just swipe your card at the bar, but you can still look at it. Okay, so wait a second. Let me get this straight. Yeah. You mean to tell me fights would break out in a place where really high society people would hang out with really low society people and they'd all watch hangings together? Crazy, and possibly some of the politicians that had a say in maybe who got hung, hanging out with ex-prisoners who were maybe in prison with some of the people that were possibly getting hung, and then fights broke out? What? Who'd have thunk? Oh. Yeah, and so I'm actually going to talk about one of these maybe fights that broke out. So, like I mentioned earlier, there are these beautiful paintings throughout the tavern, and some of the originals are still there today.
and they're absolutely stunning.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And one of these paintings is of a woman, and there's a hole in it towards the bottom. It's believed that this hole was put there by a soldier during World War I. After getting too drunk, he fired his service weapon into the wall and ceiling and damaged the painting.
That's not cool.
Not a great plan. We probably shouldn't have guns in bars, guys.
Okay, so all right, look, I did this in our first telling of this story.
Yes.
Got lost to the audio files. It is now a Riley file, is what we're going to call those, and I'll tell you why later.
Okay.
So let's say this is my service weapon. In reality, it is a long pillow that I made out of one of the pant legs of my favorite pajama pants that ripped out the butt. So, okay, I've got my service weapon. Let's say I'm drunk, I'm inebriated. Maybe I go to stumble back, and I could see firing into a wall.
Yeah, so kind of the idea is that he was shooting at the ceiling because we do have a hole in the ceiling.
Okay, so...
And potentially that it was his rifle, which had a bayonet on the end. And that he bayoneted, gouged the painting while shooting the ceiling.
Oh, okay.
It's not clear if it's like a service pistol or a rifle.
All right, here's my painting.
Okay, yep. It's a beautiful sunsetty beach thing.
It is a black and white picture of a sunsetty beach. Here's my pant leg, butt ripped out crotch of my pajama pants pillow.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm drunk.
Yeah.
And I should do a Cockney accent, right?
Of course.
All right, remind me what that sounds like real quick.
It's just like a really, Russell Brandy sounding governor.
Oh yeah, okay, all right. So it's My Fair Lady, it is, okay?
Yeah, there you go.
Right. So I'm stumbling around with my pistol, and I'm getting really animated talking to my mate, and I stumble backwards, and I bayoneted the picture, and I shot a hole in the ceiling. Okay, I can see how that could be.
Yeah, that was Forensics by Jesse.
You guys are welcome.
You're halfway to Dexter at this point.
You know what? My sister actually went to school for forensic science, and it's her goal to be I'm eating marshmallows now.
Yeah, really loudly.
They're loud marshmallows. I have eaten a lot of this bag.
Oh, your
no
bag
judgment.
is a loud marshmallow.
It's 2020. So she went to school for forensic science, and she's actually studying and hoping to become a firearms expert.
That's dope.
Testify at court over the forensic of different firearms.
That's dope. So
yeah, she's really scary. I don't want to piss her off.
Maybe she should go study the
I'm just kidding.
Gouged out painting.
She'd love that.
That'd be cool. All right, so we've talked a lot about forensics. We've talked a lot about prisons and hangings and horrible things. Let's talk about some ghosts.
Ghosts are good.
Yeah, so
we've talked about gin.
Yeah, we've talked about spirits. Now let's talk about ghosts.
Oh, I like what you did there. Straight, Rue. Let me get another hand of marshmallows.
All right.
So, are there ghosts in the tavern? I'm assuming there are.
There should be. So in 1982, the daughter of the owner reported that she was just chilling upstairs when she heard footsteps coming up the stairs. The door to the room she was in then swung open, and the newspaper she was reading was pulled out of her hands by an unseen force.
Whoa!
By the time she could react, the door was slammed shut, and she heard the footsteps descending the stairs. She couldn't find anyone else in the building.
I mean, that's pretty specific.
Yeah. So in 1999, sorry, hold on. There's some people downstairs.
Chubby Bunny. Chubby Bunny.
Can you hear people?
Oh, yeah. Chubby Bunny. Chubby Bunny. Chubby Bunny. Chubby Bunny. Chubby Bunny.
They're minis. This is going to take a minute.
Chubby Bunny. Well, your people are still talking.
Yep.
Chubby Bunny. Nobody's listening to this. Chubby Bunny. Chubby Bunny. I'm not counting either, so. Chubby Bunny. Chubby Bunny. Chubby Bunny.
Oh, I'm starting to see them.
We're going to go by threes at a time now. Chubby Bunny. Chubby Bunny. Chubby Bunny. Chubby Bunny.
Oh.
Chubby Bunny. Chubby Bunny. Look, I think I win this game.
I think you win this game. All right, so that was Jessie's Chubby Bunny interlude with mini marshmallows, so it took her a good minute to get there. All right, and we're back. So in 1999, two electricians were doing some work when one of them reported feeling a tap on his shoulder. So he turns around to the direction of the tap, and they see a rolled up carpet levitating before being thunked back down on the floor.
Oh, no!
Basically, yeah. So some people believe that the ghost attached to these occurrences is that of a sex worker who was murdered on the property. So I think the building is like 5 stories tall. There's the basement, there's the main floor where the bar is, and then there's some like residential space upstairs. And it's implied that
A brothel back then.
Yeah, that sex workers took up some space somewhere upstairs among the
Of course, you go down, chat up a client, pull one upstairs. It makes sense.
It's a hell of a business model. And so that's one of the ghosts. There's also another ghost who's said to steal patrons' drinks if they aren't paying attention.
I'm sure that's just not the untrustworthy bartenders.
Are we sure that's not just me as a ghost?
Is that just you frequenting this bar that you've been at a couple times?
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to be on record.
All right, guys. So if you're at this tavern and you happen to see Rue, maybe watch your drink a little closer.
Yeah.
Not because she's going to roofie it or anything. Yeah. She's just going to take a little off the top. It's cool.
So you mean to say I won't roofie it?
Chubby bunny.
Chubby bunny. Okay.
Chubby bunny.
So people also report seeing faces in the windows upstairs, like looking out at them, maybe watching for executions, like you do.
What a crappy way to spend your afterlife. Hey, I want to watch executions all day from this window.
Yep.
Ugh, boring.
Yep. So the cellar is reportedly the most haunted place in the tavern, as it should be, because cellars are always creepy.
Yeah, basement ghosts.
Yeah. In the 1980s, the owner was down there when the lights went out and the door slammed behind him. He then heard a voice say, "It's just us two down here."
Oh, nope of the week.
Nope of the month.
Nope, not of the month. We've got more nopes than that.
Oh, shoot. All right. Well, so far, it's in
so
the
far. Nope of the week. It is in the running for nope of the month. We should choose a nope of the month out of all the nope of the weeks.
That would be great. Yeah.
Next month.
Okay. So the river flows directly under the cellar, and a lot of people talk about how like water, magnetism, and all that has to do with energy fields. Mm-hmm. And so I'm wondering if like maybe that's part of why this seems to be like such an active spot, because there is water directly flowing under the building.
It could be. It could also just be that place has so much history.
Oh, yeah, but I mean like to intensify it, like why it's so active.
Yeah,
because it takes a lot of energy to manifest like picking up a whole carpet that's rolled up and then dropping it on the ground.
Yes, but then you talk about how there were executions across the street. There's a lot of fear involved in that. There's a lot of high tension. It could be. I'm not discluding it. I'm just saying there's a lot of reasons that place could be haunted.
Well, and we haven't gotten to maybe the worst part.
There's a worst part? So
in the cellar, there is a, quote, cell room, which is said to be the last remaining cell of the Newgate jail.
How is that possible?
I think because, like, how zoning laws changed, that, like, they built on top of old buildings, and so, like, when this building was being built, the jail had already moved, kind of thing.
Fair.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right.
All right, gotcha.
And so this isn't proven historically, and actually the tavern's history claims these cells as being from the debtor's prison. So we're not really sure.
They had separate prisons. So like the blue collar crimes, the tax evaders, and then we have like violent crimes and what have you. Okay.
Yep. And so it's said that the cells are the most active part, and people often report hearing pained screaming coming from them.
Aww.
Not cute.
Nope.
There is a spirit who likes to hang out in the cellar who they call Fred.
Dead Fred.
Stop it, Jesse.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And he's actually a big part of the reason that the employees don't like going into the cellar at night. He just messes with people. He's probably the one who like slammed the door and was like, "It's just us down here."
Like if Jim did that, I would be freaking, you know who would hear pain screams? The neighbors across the street of me trying to climb out our tiny barred windows.
All of the state of Kansas. Yeah, so if you go to the tavern when it's slow, most of the bartenders are happy to show you around, and they'll even take you downstairs.
That's so awesome.
I know. All the times I've been there, it's been too busy, like, because this place stays hopping. I've tried to go on, like, a random Wednesday afternoon. The first time I went, it was, like, a Friday night, so obviously it was way too busy. This place stays packed.
Try the morning.
Okay, well, if I'm ever allowed to travel recreationally ever again, I will definitely do that.
Noted.
But basically, like, they have still told me some stories.
Okay,
like,
what did they say?
I can't take you down, but, like, while I'm making your drink, I'll tell you something. So one of the bartenders told me that she's frequently experienced issues with the automatic towel dispenser in the bathroom. She said that when she's been alone and not even near the dispenser, it will all of a sudden be triggered. So she'll just be like sitting on the toilet basically, and like, you know how you have to like wave your hand, it'll just towels will just start coming out.
I think that's a courteous ghost. It's like, hey, you're gonna wash your hands, have some towels.
I think I don't want ghosts watching me pee.
Technically, it's not watching her pee. It's just, I mean, if you have a problem with where that ghost was standing, you have a problem with public restrooms in general.
I suppose, but it still feels weird that I can't see it see me pee.
I mean, I live in a house with Jim. Every time I worry, he's gonna see me pee.
That's fair. We're so modest in front of our ghostly companions.
No, I respect his space. He respects mine. It's cool.
Yeah. So the same bartender also told me that she's definitely heard a bunch of weird stuff when she goes down, because apparently they just use like the cell rooms as like soft drink storage.
I mean, it sounds like the perfect place for that.
Obviously. But it also means that like at 8 p.m. when you run out of Coke, you have to go down into the cell of the debtor's prison and bring it upstairs.
I mean, do they draw straws for that, do you think?
I'm sure they do.
Or do they just send like the newest member who hasn't had to do it?
Probably a hazing ritual. They're probably just like, hey, George, you're the newest. Gone.
You're our soda fetcher for the next 3 months until someone else joins up.
And then I did find a review while doing my notes on TripAdvisor, and they said the big surprise was later as we found out that there was an old Newgate cell in the cellar. So we went down and learned a little about the condemned prisoners' last night on this earth. Certainly not a comfortable place, but worth the visit.
All right. Was it 5 stars?
I believe it was. They did recommend the place.
Good.
Yeah. So that's the story of the Viaduct Tavern. Again, for you, but not our listeners.
Well, did I at least sound like it was our first time talking about it?
I hope so. We had to record part of it like 4 times because of technical issues, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, and beyond that, I really feel like I had forgotten part of it.
It's been like a week and a half, so yeah, probably. Oh, sorry, I was making noise.
It sounds like a really cool place and one I would love to check out. Maybe have some gin at. Do they still sell gin?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They have a fabulous gin selection. I've had, what were some of my favorites? I had a really good, they had like a freeze-dried strawberry gin and tonic that was amazing. I had a basil and black pepper one, which I recreate at home all the time.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yep. I love botanicals in general in gin, so there you go.
That's cool. All right.
So what do you have for me? And I understand that I don't even have to sound surprised because you really have changed it up a little bit.
I have changed it up entirely.
Oh, snap.
Okay. So the first time we recorded this episode, well, let's back it up. Do your rewind sound. All right. So we're going to continue on with my Halloween costume countdown.
Halloween
so we've done.
countdown.
So number 5 was number 5.
Zombies.
Number 4.
Jonah Hill in Pirate Party.
It was Seth Rogen, but Jonah Hill made an appearance too.
He's the executive producer, so he gets listed first.
I think you just added that. Number 3, the number 3 most popular Halloween costume in all of history is superheroes.
Bum, bum, bum.
So originally, when Rue and I had recorded this episode, I went through and we talked about a bunch of real life Caped Crusaders who do vigilante justice, and we kind of compared notes on some of them, and it was fun. But I think I found a story that blows that out of the water.
Oh, snap. I'm here for it.
It's a bird. It's a plane. It's the Curse of Superman.
Oh.
So first of all, the Superman curse, or the Curse of Superman, it refers to a series of supposedly related misfortunes that have kind of plagued creative people involved in different adaptations of the Superman films and television series. So the first one that it said really kicked off the Curse of Superman would be the death of George Reeves. Have you heard about this at all?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to take you guys to the year 1959, where the Curse of Superman allegedly began. So the curse supposedly began when George Reeves, the actor known for playing Superman in The Adventures of Superman, the very first Superman TV series, was found dead in his home. So police arrive on the scene of his home in Benedict Canyon to find him dead of a single bullet hole to the head. He was nude, which is interesting. It's interesting that all the Hollywood conspiracy deaths, they're found nude, or a good amount of them.
Yeah,
So,
I was going to say, this sounds kind of similar to the Marilyn Monroe story you covered.
It does, and you might notice some similar elements here.
Okay.
Because there's a really interesting set of characters involved in his death, or around the time that he decided to take his life. So first of all, this Benedict Canyon home that he's living in is a gift from his ex-lover. And this ex-lover's kind of interesting because her name is Toni Mannix. She was a former Ziegfeld Folly showgirl, and more importantly than that at the moment, she was married to Eddie Mannix, whose real name was Edgar, but he's a MGM studio executive, and he's known to be a fixer for the studios. Now, do you know what a fixer is?
No.
Okay, a fixer back in those days of early Hollywood, and who knows, maybe even possibly today, is someone that was hired by the studios to make problems go away.
Okay. Yeah, that checks out.
Mob connections, etc.
That's kind of what I was thinking it was, but I was
covering
like, maybe
up.
Just the movie version. I was like, that can't be a real thing, but no, it's totally a real thing.
It was, in fact, a real thing.
So hold up, was she married and bought her secret lover a house, or was she like divorced from this Eddie dude?
No, they couldn't divorce. They were in a Catholic marriage, and they didn't believe in divorce. Oh. So it's alleged that Eddie Mannix knew about his wife's relationship with George Reeves and was actually kind of okay with it and encouraged it.
Interesting. Okay, good for him. Very progressive.
Well, apparently this guy also had lovers throughout their marriage. Although I couldn't find a lot about that.
Gotcha.
So she lavished gifts upon George Reeves. She buys him this house, and then about a year after she buys him the house, he leaves her.
Whoa.
And he leaves her for another little interesting lady who's gonna come into this story now. So he leaves her for Lenore Lemon.
Okay. That's a very superhero sounding name in general.
Right? It kind of sounds very dark and mysterious. I'm Lenore Lemon. Anyway, she was a notorious party girl. Oh. And she was from a pretty wealthy family.
Right on.
So he leaves Toni Mannix for Lenore Lemon. Mm-hmm. And they begin a relationship. So I'm going to take you now to the night of his death.
Okay.
So it's said that he was attending a party with Lenore and another guest when he decides he's going to go upstairs and go to bed. Mm-hmm. At 1 a.m. in the morning, 2 neighbors come over to the residence, and he comes down in a bathroom, and George Reeves comes down the staircase in a bathrobe, kind of angry that he's been woken up. He says that it's way too late for people to be arriving in the home.
Okay.
So he kind of has it out with the male neighbor who comes over. But they make up pretty fast and have a shared drink. It said that he looked kind of despondent when he was going back upstairs and possibly even inebriated. So he goes back upstairs after making good with this neighbor. But before he does, him and Lenore had a huge fight. They're about 3 days out from their wedding, and I think the partying was kind of getting to him. It also kind of sounds like not only is the partying become a thing, but he's been out of work for 2 years. There's a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah, and he's living in a house bought by his ex-married lover, which I can imagine that there's a lot of self-confidence stuff that's not working so hot for him. He's about to get married. He's out of work.
Right.
Like, it's stressful. Yeah.
Weigh on somebody. So they have it out and they have a fight, and he storms up the stairs to go back to bed after he's made up with her. Mm-hmm. And that's when she's quoted as saying something very suspicious. So he storms off to go upstairs after they've had this big fight in front of the neighbors. He's made up with the neighbor that was arriving. And that's when Lenore Lemon is quoted as saying, "In a moment you will hear a gun." And at that point, they heard a drawer opening upstairs. And Lemon said that he was getting a gun out of the drawer. And then she said, "Now you will hear a shot." And just then, a single gunshot was heard by the attendees of this party.
Okay.
So the male neighbor who had arrived, Bliss, goes upstairs and he finds Reeves lying on the bed. So newspaper accounts at the time quote Lemon as saying she was only kidding when she was talking about hearing the gun and hearing the shot. But that's super suspicious, right? Because why would you say, "And now you'll hear a gun, and now you'll hear him shoot himself," you know?
Right, and like, how do you even know that?
Right. So I'm speculating if he's been depressed for a long time, it's possible he could just go through these motions on a regular basis without actually firing the gun. But his best friend said that he was very suspicious of this because George Reeves was a collector of guns. And because his house was kind of a well-populated party spot, he was always very worried about keeping guns around with live ammunition.
Okay.
So his best friend said that after the death, it was very suspicious to him because George never kept any ammunition in any guns that he had around.
Which is just good gun owner safety protocol.
And the gun in question was a Luger.
Okay.
So that's already a little bit suspicious, right? The next thing that's suspicious is the fact that nobody who attended that party called the police for about 45 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, after finding him.
Finding him. So not even just after hearing the shot. And she's like, okay, well, I guess the lady of the house said it was fine, so it's fine. So they found him. And they were like, weird, and did nothing.
And they didn't call the police for 45 minutes.
Cool. Dope. Great. Love it.
Okay. So the next thing is when police were examining things, there were actually 3 bullet holes found.
Okay.
So there's one in his temple, and there's 2 more, one located, I believe, behind the bed and another located on the floor. Although different articles I've read have kind of speculated as to where they are, or different people had said different things over the span of different times. Gotcha. So I'm not 100% sure on that. If you read articles, they all kind of say different things about where or if at all. So 3 gunshot holes. And one had been covered by a rug.
Okay.
Which in itself is interesting enough.
This is bad. I don't know the end of this story yet, but this isn't good.
So George Reeves is now passed away, and Lenore Lemon inherits his estate.
Cool.
And the police are just like, yeah, it's a suicide. That's all good. All else is good and all that. That's
like the police did back then, and kind of still today, but yeah.
That's probably exactly what they said. Okay, and the bullet holes were fired by the same gun. So no one really knows for sure, but a lot of people believe that who was responsible for his murder is actually Tony Mannix.
Oh, the husband of the wife who was his lover who bought him the house.
Okay, so...
Or wait, that is the husband, right? Not the girl?
No, Tony is the wife that he was fooling around with.
Okay, so it's the lady who bought him the house, not her husband.
Okay, so by the time Tony Mannix is in her 70s, a friend of hers, Edward Lawsey, told the Times that she had worshipped him throughout her life and kept closets lined with his clothing.
Ew.
That she also kept his shaving utensils and lotions and built an altar in the house with a crucifix, candles, and an 11 by 14 photograph of him.
Weird.
So as Tony Mannix's health starts declining, she made kind of a startling confession to her priest at the time that her friend overheard. He said that she confessed that her and Eddie Mannix had killed Reeves.
Oh.
She was absolutely terrified of going to hell, so she makes this confession to her priest. But a lot of people say that can't be true because it would have been impossible for her to get into the house, and it really doesn't, bring into effect why Lenore Lemon had said those particular things.
Unless she was in on it.
Oh, and speaking of Lenore Lemon, she said that the bullet hole that was covered by the rug is where she accidentally misfired that gun earlier that day.
Why are these people playing with guns so much in the house?
I don't know, but it's all very suspicious and was never really looked into.
Great.
So that kind of kicks off the curse of Superman. To this day, we aren't 100% sure because, frankly, nobody took fingerprints. They didn't search his hands for any burn marks or
residue
or anything like that. He was found completely nude, although when he came down in the bathroom, I'm wondering if he was already nude or how that works into it.
That's not the weirdest part of the story, interestingly.
No, but there are just a lot of questions out there.
Yeah.
So after George Reeves died, it said that the Superman curse kind of kicked into effect.
Okay.
So here's some other actors that were allegedly victims of the curse of Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk Allen, who played Superman in 2 low-budget 1940s serials. Once again, he was typecast after this, and he was not able to find any work because he was too closely identified with the role of Superman.
Right, yeah, that makes sense.
So he was kind of stuck doing voiceovers, commercials, and uncredited screen roles. So later in the series, he appears as Lois Lane's father in 1978's Superman film.
Okay.
He had really bad Alzheimer's disease later in his life, and then he died in 1999 at the age of 88. So they say it kind of cursed his career. Now, many talent agents in Hollywood have credited Superman films being hard to cast because of the alleged curse and the rate that it carries.
Oh, like people aren't interested because it's so loaded?
Yeah, it can be. So Lee Quigley, because it's a career killer, one, and some argue that it's a person killer too.
Yeah.
Lee Quigley is the next person that kind of experienced that. He played Superman as a baby in the 1978 film, and he died in 1991 at the age of 14.
Whoa.
Of solvent abuse.
Oh my God.
Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
Or Christopher Reeve, funny enough, not related to George Reeves.
Okay, I was gonna ask that because he's the one who immediately came to mind for me.
Right, because he was Superman in the 80s, late 70s, 80s, and so forth. So he played Superman and Clark Kent in Superman film series, Superman, the movie, in 1978, Superman in 1980, and Superman 2 in 1980, and Superman 3 in 1983. And Superman 4, The Quest for Peace in 1987. So he was so closely identified with the character that it was really difficult for him, once again, to acquire parts in other films.
Yeah.
And so he was kind of stuck in this perpetual cycle of playing Superman again and again and again because it's all the work he could get. They say that the curse became in effect with him when he was paralyzed from the neck down after being thrown from his horse in a cross-country equestrian riding event on May 27th, 1995. Unfortunately, he passed on October 10th of 2004 at the age of 52.
Jeez, I didn't realize he was so young.
No. Have you heard of kind of what happened to Marlon Brando?
Not in relation to Superman.
All right. Well, Marlon Brando played Jor-El in the 1978 film, and his fortune suffers in the form of his private life.
Oh.
So his son, Christian, actually shot his half-sister's Cheyenne's boyfriend in 1990 and was imprisoned for 5 years after.
Okay.
Brando admitted in front of a court that he had failed his son and daughter terribly, and his daughter took her own life in 1995.
Wow.
He died in July of 2004, 3 months before his Superman co-star, Christopher Reeve. Margot Kidder, who played Superman's love interest in Lois Lane, opposite of Christopher Reeve, had bipolar disorder, and in April 1996, she went missing for several days and was found by police in a paranoid delusional state. She later died of a drug overdose. Her death was ruled a suicide. So this reminds me another little tidbit about the George Reeves murder. Tony Lennox had called the woman that played Lois Lane in George Reeves' version of Superman and said, well, the boy is dead. But the time she called her was way earlier than anyone in the house, besides the people that were in the home, would have known.
Okay, that's especially weird.
Yeah, but also, like, if someone in the house killed him and her husband was a fixer, she might be privy to that information, but I would doubt it.
But
it's
also,
very suspicious.
Like, was it before 1 a.m. when George came down and yelled at the dude and then decided to have a drink with him?
No, it was after.
Oh, okay. I guess.
But not far enough after that people in that house would have been talking about it yet.
Right.
So comedian Richard Pryor is the next person. He had a drug addiction that led to a near-fatal suicide attempt, and he starred as villain Gus Gorman in 1983's Superman 3. But later he took Superman's side near the end of the movie and became a hero. 3 years later, he announced that he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and he died of a heart attack. Dana Reeve, the wife of Christopher Reeve. The curse has even been mentioned in her death as well.
Wow.
Despite being a non-smoker, she died of lung cancer in 2006 at the age of 44. So we got a lot of deaths going on here.
Yeah.
And tragic accidents, and not to mention the typecasting and career killing. So Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster were the writer and artist who co-created Superman. They sold the rights of their creation to DC Comics for a relatively small amount of money, in contrast to the money that the character generated over the decades, and in fact is still generating today. So despite repeated efforts over the course of the rest of their lives to recover the legal ownership of Superman and share in the immense profits that the character brought for DC Comics, DC's copyright on the character was renewed, and their worsening and Schuster's worsening eyesight prevented him from drawing. So he ended up working as a deliveryman, not making very much money at all.
Wow.
And the list just goes on and on. So brothers Max Pfizer and Dave Pfizer of Pfizer Studios start quarreling with one another over their studio, and their studio suffers immense financial disaster. After selling to Paramount Studios, the new owners fired the two brothers, and one of them died in poverty.
Wow.
And what if I told you it's even tied to this sex cult?
Excuse me?
Yeah, that's right. Allison Mack, who played Chloe Sullivan on the TV series Smallville, was accused of sex trafficking and forced into human labor and was arrested in April of 2018 on those charges.
I had no idea.
Oh, have you not heard of Nexum? I think I am probably not saying that right. Oh my God, I will cover that on a future episode.
Okay.
But it is an ongoing court case about a kind of a Hollywood cult. That she was very
please cover that.
So there were a lot of people supposedly affected by this curse and that are still affected to this day. There are a couple actors who have believed not to become victims of the curse. Dean Cain, Bud Collyer, Brandon Routh, Bob Holliday. But all in all, the curse of Superman kind of hangs high over the franchise.
Yeah.
And to think that casting directors to this day can't potentially struggle to cast this role due to this curse.
Yeah, that's crazy. I guess it's good that Henry Cavill ended up The Witcher, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good for him.
So that, my friends, is supposedly the curse of Superman and our number 3 most popular Halloween costume of all time.
That's awesome. Well, not for them, but like I had no idea.
So I've got the next 2 coming up, including our Pirate Party Part 2 in our next episode. And I can't wait to tell you guys about it. And Rue, I am so pumped to hear your casting of this.
Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be great. I'm pretty sure that when we record, I'll be jet lagged. So you're in for a real treat on that one.
But thank you guys so much for joining us this time on Supposedly. Where can they find us, Rue?
So you can find us on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at supposedlypod. And if you want to drop us a longer line, you can email us at supposedlypod@gmail.com.
Did you say you can find us at Twitter at supposedlypod? Because you can. We were having a hard time of people searching us before that, but I found a thing that I needed to fix for us to be searchable. So we are searchable now.
Oh, cool.
If you've been struggling to find that, don't know what was really going wrong there, but it's fixed. So
cool.
Yay. All right, and thanks for joining us this time on
Supposedly.
Supposedly.